This was not part of the script.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for 10 sports stars who died while competing.
There was nothing righteous about it.
For this list, we'll be looking at some of the tragedies over the years of athletes from a variety of sports who perished while taking part in a competition. Do you have any fond memories of the athletes mentioned in the video? Let us know about them below. Philip Hughes.
As a batsman, Hughes had guts, if not always grace.
Australia's Philip Hughes was an opening batsman that broke records in the realm of cricket.
He gets 100 in each innings and is the youngest player to do so.
In 2014, he played for the South Australia team against New South Wales in the Sheffield Shield competition. Bowler Sean Abbott delivered a bouncer towards Hughes, who attempted a hook shot. However, he missed and the ball struck him in the neck. This impact damaged the artery, leading to a brain hemorrhage. This was an incredibly rare incident, and while medical staff tried to save Hughes, he sadly lost his life. He was 25.
It's the sort of urgency that I haven't seen before in an emergency situation at the cricket, and I've not seen anything quite like this before.
An inquest later found no one at fault for this tragic accident. Ray Chapman. In the history of professional baseball, only one person has died from a direct incident on the field: Ray Chapman. Playing for the then-named Cleveland Indians, Chapman was one of the best batters around. In August 1920, Cleveland took on the New York Yankees. When the pitcher for the Yankees, Carl Mays, threw the ball, Chapman didn't see it. The ball viciously struck him on the skull.
When the ball hit Chapman in the head, it hit him with such force that it could be heard throughout the stadium, and the ball actually ricocheted back onto the playing field, and Carl Mays thought the ball had hit the bat, and he fielded it like it was a bunt.
Chapman reportedly told Mays not to worry before collapsing on the pitch.
He never took first base. He fell to the ground at first, and he kind of got back up, couldn't speak, fell down again, and they took him to the hospital.
He later passed away from brain damage at 29. The Indians won the 1920 World Series and dedicated the victory to Chapman. Jose Flores. Born in Peru, Jose Flores made a name for himself as a jockey in the U.S. Throughout his long career, he won 4,650 races.
I tell you, yeah, he was one of a kind, for sure. And, like I said, every horse he rode it the same way. Didn't matter what they were running for, he rode hard.
In March 2018, he raced at what's now called Parx Casino and Racing. While leading with his horse, Love Rules, the mount fell with no warning, causing Flores to clatter into the ground headfirst. With massive cranial damage, Flores passed away days later at 57.
He is survived by his wife Joanne and his 3 children, Juan, Jr., and Julia.
Another instance when a jockey lost their life during a race was 22-year-old Irishman Frank Hayes. He suffered a heart attack and remained in the saddle when the horse crossed first in the race. Owen Hart.
This is not a wrestling angle. This is real life.
After making a name for himself in professional wrestling and winning titles along the way, Owen Hart was in the prime of his career.
He was a main eventer and one of the WWF's hottest tickets.
For the pay-per-view Over the Edge in 1999, Hart, who was wrestling under the moniker The Blue Blazer, was set to take on The Godfather for the WWF Intercontinental Championship. Hart descended from the rafters for his entrance, but that's when tragedy struck. One of the cables released, causing the Canadian wrestler to fall around 70 feet and land on the top rope chest first.
But many in the arena had no idea what was really going on.
I thought he was, doing some stuff when he hit the rope, I knew something wrong.
Hart passed away at the age of 34. His passing was announced during the pay-per-view broadcast, and the show controversially went on.
There is an ongoing investigation, and we don't have any answers as to how this happened.
Fran Crippen. After getting a start as a professional swimmer in the pool, Fran Crippen switched to open water competition and began ranking in medals. In 2010, he took part in the FINA Marathon Swim World Series in Fujairah, UAE. But at the end of the race, Crippen was nowhere to be found. After a frantic search, divers located his body under the water. It was discovered that after 8 kilometers, Crippen had told his coach he wasn't feeling well, but he continued with the race. On top of this, the water temperature had reached 86 degrees Fahrenheit, resulting in several swimmers being treated for heat exhaustion.
The water was warm, the air was warm, and he told me that Friday. He said, I'll just overhydrate.
It's believed all these factors resulted in Crippen's death at the age of 26.
The organizers have been criticized for holding the race in such heat and for not having enough boats out with the swimmers. And Fran Crippen is being mourned.
Kim Duk-koo. Kim Duk-koo was one of the most dominant boxers in Asia in the late 70s and early 80s. He challenged Ray Mancini for his WBA lightweight title in the US back in 1982. The longer the match went on, the more Mancini took control. By the 14th round, Kim was struck by numerous heavy punches, causing him to fall.
And he scored his
Although he was able to get back up, the referee stopped the fight. Minutes later, Kim collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. Emergency brain surgery took place to address Kim's subdural hematoma. Unfortunately, he lost his life days later at the age of 27 years.
Boxing changed forever. The championship fights went from 15 rounds to 12 rounds.
Chuck Hughes. After breaking college football records when playing wide receiver, Chuck Hughes was signed by the Philadelphia Eagles before joining the Detroit Lions. In October 1971, the team faced the Chicago Bears. Later in the fourth play, Hughes ran back to the huddle. However, he clutched his chest and collapsed. He suffered a massive attack due to an undiagnosed arteriosclerosis. While medical staff attempted to save him, Hughes passed away at 28.
The Lions had lost their 4-game winning streak and their share of first place. But after the game, all of this suddenly seemed insignificant with the shocking news that the Lions had also lost their teammate, Chuck Hughes.
Earlier in the season, Hughes had visited the hospital with chest pains, and they failed to spot his heart defect. The hospital settled with Hughes' widow after she sued them for malpractice. Marc-Vivien Foé. In 2003, Marc-Vivien Foé was living the dream by representing his country, Cameroon, during the FIFA Confederations Cup. In the semifinal, the team took on Colombia. However, in the 72nd minute, Foé collapsed in the center circle. Medical staff attempted to revive him, but by the time they reached the hospital, Foé had passed at the age of 28. An investigation found he had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a thickening of the heart muscle.
But when news of Foé's death was officially announced minutes after the match, players from both sides wept in disbelief.
Another soccer player, 22-year-old Antonio Puerta, was a future star for Spain and Sevilla. In August 2007, he collapsed during a match against Getafe after suffering a heart attack. Puerta died a few days later in hospital. Ayrton Senna.
You know we are always exposed to danger. Danger of getting hurt, danger of dying.
Today, Ayrton Senna is considered one of the best Formula One drivers to grace the track. After all, the Brazilian racer won multiple World Drivers' Championships and was a fan favorite. In 1994, the 34-year-old Senna competed in the San Marino Grand Prix, an event already filled with tragedy after Roland Ratzenberger's fatal crash during the qualifying session. At lap 7, Senna's car was unable to turn at the Tamburello corner, causing the vehicle to crash into the concrete at around 145 miles per hour. This would later be discovered to be a failure with the car's steering column.
Ayrton ran out of luck. He did not have a broken bone in his body. He did not have any bruising. If that piece of assembly would have gone 6 inches higher or 6 inches lower, he would have walked back to the paddock.
While Senna was immediately treated, his injuries were too severe. He was pronounced dead shortly afterwards.
He died doing something that he desperately wanted to do, and I don't think he would have wished it any other way. He was special. I mean, he was not one step, he was 2 steps better than everyone else.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Dale Earnhardt. For 4 decades, Dale Earnhardt raced and often dominated the NASCAR scene. He's often one of the best drivers the sport has ever seen.
The faster he could go, the better he seemed to enjoy.
Taking part in 2001's Daytona 500, Earnhardt's vehicle at one point clipped Sterling Marlin's car in the final lap. He lost control and struck Ken Schrader's car.
And then we watched the ambulance going to the hospital. And the ambulance was traveling virtually at walking pace, which meant either a broken back or death.
The two vehicles suddenly collided with the outside wall before sliding to the grass on the inside lane. The legendary driver suffered a basilar skull fracture and lost his life at the age of 49.
Somehow, fans say this man in the black #3 Chevrolet always seemed to defy the risks of this sport. His death, a reminder to the men who still want to be boys that NASCAR at 180 miles per hour is not make-believe.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.